Ruiz. It is Tuesday, which means we're unpacking the craziness of Week 6 and turning the page to what's ahead in Week 7. I've got a full crew joining me today. Michael Robinson, D'Angelo Hall, James Jones, Maurice Jones-Drew, and Sean O'Hara are all on deck. But we start with the trouble in Dallas. Our expert on all things Cowboys, Jane Slater, with us now. James Jones also here for this conversation. Jane, I'll start with you. Things are unraveling, no doubt, for the Cowboys. You, of course, have very deep insight within this team. What are you hearing about the culture there after this 2-4 start to the season?
Well, honestly, it's been hard to get a sense of what's been going on in Dallas. We've talked about their historically bad numbers as it relates to this defense, and we've also shown you the video in recent weeks. Guys that have been playing out of assignment, that have looked confused, that have missed their tackle, miscommunication. And then it was this morning I'm hearing word that there is, in fact, a lack of a buy-in, a disconnect, it seems, in the locker room. I'm being told the coaches are unprepared. They don't teach. They can't adjust on the fly. They're not good coaches. Now, for his part, Mike McCarthy, after this latest disappointment in primetime, said, maybe we're trying too hard, or maybe we're overcoaching. Self-inflicted wounds continue to plague our players. As I continue to learn this team, I felt the preparation coming into this game was the best so far this year. This is where I bring in James Jones. You know, Mike McCarthy, new to Dallas for both players and those of us in the media who haven't really gotten a lot of time to spend with him. Given some of that information as it relates to how the players are feeling about this coaching staff, can he get these players on the same page 6 games into the season and still plenty of games to go?
Well, first off, I want to say, man, I mean, gosh, Leash, I mean, to hear that, you know, Coach Mike is not a good coach, or even the other coaches on the coaching staff are not good coaches and can't adjust on the fly. I played for Coach Mike for 8 years, and that's not what I got from him. I mean, we won a lot of ball games. We won a Super Bowl. I mean, he put us in position to win ball games and have success. So I'm thinking that that's coming from the defensive side of the ball and putting them in bad positions on the defensive side of the ball, because the offense is really putting up very good numbers. So on the defensive side of the ball, I understand the complaints. I do. You know, you feel like you're out of position. This is a new coaching staff, new D coordinator over there, and you feel like they're putting you in bad situations. But one thing I learned as a player, Jane, is that coaches are not going to change. They may change a scheme here and there, but they're going to run their system. They're not going to change. Right now, the Dallas Cowboys sit in first place. So you're either going to continue to make these excuses and say we are not in the right position to make the plays and continue to say it's the coaches and all that, and it might be. But at the end of the day, you have to believe in what's called. You have to go out there and you have to perform. You have to tackle. You have to cover. You have to beat blocks. You have to do all that. You have to run your routes. You have to throw the ball. This is not the coaches. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to start believing what's called on both sides of the ball and going out there playing at a high level, or you can keep complaining and going out there making excuses after the game or after a play and end up in last place in the division and not making the playoffs. That's just my insight on it.
And James, to that end, let's bring in a coach, our Super Bowl winning coach, Brian Billick, for his perspective. Coach, what is your assessment of this Cowboys situation? And do you think that this locker room is, in fact, lost? Can it be reversed even?
Well, I'm going to put a disclaimer up front. I'm a coach, so I'm going to look at it from a coach's standpoint. And coaches don't lose locker rooms. Locker rooms lose locker rooms, okay? This was a losing team last year. You got the last staff fired. You brought in a new staff. I've known Mike McCarthy for 30 years. Mike Nolan worked for me in Baltimore. I've known him for the same amount of time. These are the two most detailed, hardworking, knowledgeable coaches I've ever known. To me, this is the classic players that got the last staff fired, and now it's jumping up on the soapbox saying, I confess he did it. If you're not being coached, if you're not hearing the adjustments, maybe you're not listening, because these guys are good football coaches. And now you've gone through two different coaches. Now it's incumbent upon you, like James said. You still have an opportunity. God bless America. You're in the right division. You can go forward with this. Listen to what the coaches are saying. Buy into what they're talking about. These are two good coaches, and you can rally around it if you choose to. You'll notice that those reports come from someone that doesn't have the decency to put their names to it. So I'd put that kind of credibility on it.
I would just say on that, in Dallas, when we've seen players put their names on it, it hasn't exactly had the desired results that those players were initially looking for. I do think what's interesting here, too, is as we talk about the defense, and James brought this up, it is what they call a multiple defense, an exotic one, and one that they introduced in a condensed training camp with a virtual OTA. And yes, there are plenty of other teams that have adjusted with new coaches. But I think given the limited personnel that you've had because of injuries, and even just the suggestion from Jalen Smith a few weeks ago that perhaps they need to simplify this playbook. And then, of course, you had Mike McCarthy, who dug in and said, we're not going to be a one-call defense. We've got the personnel that can do this. Maybe this does at least create a conversation this week, Wednesday, when they get inside this building, that they need to do something to simplify this, or at least make this something these players and the coaching staff can buy in, because there has been a real disconnect here as both sides seemingly dig in. One side not seemingly wanting to learn this playbook, the other having a hard time explaining it.
I mean, the Cowboys season going from bad to worse over the course of this weekend. And yet, as you both mentioned, they still remain at the top of their division. Jane Slater, James Jones, Coach Billick, thank you guys. All right, let's get to the latest headlines from around the league. Tom Pelissero with us now. And Tom, it's Tua time in Miami. How did the Dolphins come to this decision, and why now?
MJ, I asked that exact question to someone in Miami familiar with the decision-making process this morning. Why now? And the answer I got was, it's just time. You can expect the unexpected with Coach Brian Flores, who has made some surprising personnel decisions before. He is always going to do what is best for the team and the culture, not just now, but for where they want to go. They did not draft Tua Tagovailoa number 5 overall to sit on the bench. They thought he was a great fit for what Chan Gailey did with his offense. And talking with coaches and executives before the draft, it was very apparent Tua might have been the most pro-ready quarterback this side of Joe Burrow in the entire draft. The only question on him was the injuries. Well, physically now, he has shown that he has gotten all the way back from that hip injury he had last year. Mentally, he is up to speed. He now gets an extra week with the upcoming bye to prepare for his first start on November 1st against the Rams. And it's also worth noting here, the Dolphins' bye originally was scheduled for week 11. It got moved up to week 7 because of all that schedule shuffling related to a couple of COVID-19 outbreaks within the league. You have to wonder, MJ, if that sped up the process a little bit here of getting us to Tua time.
It might be a little divine intervention, Tom. But you know who else is happy about Tua's new start? Rick Ross. This is what he posted on his Instagram.
Just got word that Tua named the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Congratulations, little bro. You know what it is, baby. 305, we turning up.
Oh, it made me feel like I was home for a minute there. Mike Robb, MJD, and D'Angelo Hall. Welcome in, guys. I'll tell you my thoughts on Tua just a little bit later because you know I'm going in. But what did you guys think about Tua being named the starter against the Rams next week? Rob, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought Tua was definitely one of the top talents in the draft at the quarterback position. But, again, my question is, like, why now, right? It wasn't like Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing terrible football. Now, we have throughout Ryan Fitzpatrick's career, we've seen him throw away a game or two here or there. And I think the consensus is that he's probably knocking at the ceiling of his potential, talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick. But you look at his numbers this year, 70% completion, 256 yards passing per game, 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions with almost 100 passer rating. That's not bad. And then the team is 3-3. I just wish that Ryan Fitzpatrick would have done something to warrant this change. Now, I get looking at the future and always making decisions for the future. But what are you saying to the locker room right now? Free agents that came to that team to win right now. Not saying that you won't win right now, but again, Ryan Fitzpatrick right now gives you the best chance to win. I just hope that Coach Flores and all the offensive staff knows exactly what they're doing.
Hey, Rob, though, doesn't Fitzpatrick have a ceiling, and don't you feel like he's reached that ceiling? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't done anything glaringly bad to have lost his spot. But at the end of the day, we all know that Fitzpatrick was just holding that spot for Tua, making sure Tua was healthy, making sure he could go. You know, I got a lot of belief in Brian Flores.